Hi, everyone. My name's Erin Harris, and I'm your summer advisor. And I know that you already watched a brief video on DegreeWorks. I don't think that video really did justice to what was on DegreeWorks. So I want to talk about that a little bit more in another video. And then something else that you have yet to have been introduced to. And I want to give you a small introduction before we get to the summer advisement meetings. What's going to happen is that we have an hour for advisement. Your brain can only take in so much information in a short period of time. So you're going to get to a point, and you might already feel at this point, where you are going to have information overload and just feel overwhelmed and feel like you can't remember anything. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give a preview to the general education curriculum. I will abbreviate that by calling them Gen Eds. And then we will talk a little bit more about DegreeWorks and how the Gen Eds show up on DegreeWorks. So first of all, let me share my screen and give you just a little bit of background on the new Gen Ed courses. So I actually graduated myself from SUNY Geneseo in 1995. The new Gen Ed program was introduced last year in 2022. Before that, basically the curriculum that I went through in 1995 was the same Gen Ed program that was still in place up through 2022. Okay, so obviously it needed to be updated to our modern world. Even though classes in our college might have changed and progressed with time, the science classes certainly have progressed with the new discoveries and whatnot. But as far as the Gen Eds, those were the same since I graduated in 1995. Don't even really like to think how far ago that was, close to 30 years. Okay, I am that old. So anyway, things that they've done on the new Gen Ed curriculum, and it's much, much better. And I'll tell you why it's better. So not only is it updated, but also it's shorter, it's smaller than the old Gen Ed curriculum. What I have seen is that almost all of my freshman advisees have been able to complete all their Gen Eds in their freshman year. Okay, used to take much longer. People were still sometimes often finishing a few Gen Eds up like that last semester of senior year. So it's shorter. And what I like about that is then that it just opens up more time for you to take classes that really, truly interest you. That would open up more time that maybe students could add a minor who couldn't have fitted in under the old Gen Eds. Another thing I like about this is that there's more choice. Okay, when I was a student in 1995, I was locked into a smaller selection of courses to satisfy my Gen Eds. You are going to have so much more choice, which is wonderful because then you can really tailor your academic program to your interests. And the other thing that's better about it, which actually, let me talk about that when we get to the next page. So let me begin by explaining to you the basics of it. So first of all, the first thing that you have to do is a writing course, okay? INTD 105, that stands for interdisciplinary. That's called interdisciplinary because we have teachers from all different majors. We even actually have a math teacher who teaches a writing class. If you're in the Edgar Fellows program, you will take an honors writing class, right? But everyone has to take writing. Even if you took AP English, AP Lit, you still have to take our writing class. The only exceptions are if you took a college level writing class that transfers in as a college writing course, then you will be off the hook for INTD 105. Okay, so everyone takes a writing class, and then you watched a video about the foreign language placement exam. Everyone has to have had 4 years of language at the secondary school level in order to not have to continue a language in college. Okay, otherwise you will take the language placement exam as was described in one of the previous videos and have to continue in your language. Continuing in your language is always optional though. If you want to continue in your language, we're happy to have you do that. Then we have a scientific literacy. Students used to be required to take 2 science classes. Now it's only 1. Okay, so you have to take a science class with a lab, and that is part of the general education curriculum. And then there's also a quantitative symbolic reasoning course, which I'll show you in a minute on DegreeWorks. They now call it scientific, which I don't know why they have it labeled scientific. It's the math requirement, basically. And almost every single program on campus has a math course within it. Like there's stats for social scientists, right? So any of you that are majoring in any of the social science, like sociology, psychology, I think even political science has their own like quantitative type of course. If you're in the STEM field, anything in science, you have to take Calc 1. So you will meet this. So again, almost every program on campus, just within your major, you will meet this requirement. The only exceptions are if you are history, English, music, communication. Actually, don't quote me on communication. They could have their own math requirement. But again, if you are in something like history, English, music, there are no courses required of you in your program that are mathematical. Okay. And in the math department, I teach in the math department. We offer every semester one 100 level math course that students can use to fulfill this requirement. Okay. There is also a philosophy course called Philosophy 111, symbolic logic, that meets this requirement as well. So again, not a ton of choice on this requirement, but most of you will fulfill this requirement within your major. Now, the other benefit of this curriculum, which I really like, these new gen eds, as I said, the old gen eds were very outdated, right? They were from the 90s. We were not a global society in the 90s. In the early 90s, there was no internet. So nowadays, things that are really pressing issues on the forefront of society are issues related to being a global society, issues related to, diversity, pluralism, power, equity, inclusion, and then also you'll see sustainability, right? That's something now that, the sustainability of our earth, right, of our environment is now a very pressing concern. And so we require all students to take a gen ed course where you will learn about the sustainability of, our world. So again, I think that these are great changes, I think, to the general education requirements. Now, let me show you how this looks on DegreeWorks. Okay, so first of all, some things that you've already learned about DegreeWorks. Okay, so the last video that you watched talked about it being like a progress bar. It will show like you're 25% done with your major requirements. It'll show things like that. And then it will check off in green all of the courses that you have taken. And you'll see a half circle for courses that are in progress. And then you'll see open circles for courses that you still need. So here is a DegreeWorks that I opened for a brand new student. You need 120 credits to graduate. And the credits that are in progress are applied already here because this is a new student and I already enrolled them in 2 courses. And as I go through this, now there are things that are upper division requirements outside of the major requirements. These just sort of naturally get taken care of. I've never sat down with an advisee and said, oh my gosh, you're still missing your upper division requirements. Like that just is, every major has required upper division classes. So this just naturally gets met outside the major requirements, okay? That means that if you're a math major, you can't just take 4 math classes every semester and that's all you take, okay? Again, you probably don't want to just take just 4 math classes every semester, okay? You want to explore other areas. So outside the major requirements, again, really are no problem. And actually, if you have a minor, those count as outside the major requirements. So these areas, I just tell students, like, don't even worry about those. Those will just naturally get filled in throughout the course of your 4 years. Now, here is the section on Gen Ed courses. Okay, so well, let's see. This will just sort of check off when you've met an overarching area. Okay, so down in here, this was the colorful part of the document that I just showed you. And these, in a few minutes, or actually in the next video, I'm going to teach you how to search by attribute. Okay, these are the attributes, like WCV stands for world, culture, and values, right? This stands for diversity, pluralism, and power. Okay, creativity. I was going to say creativity, something, and innovation. I don't know every single one, I guess, word by word, but we'll talk about these in the next video when I'm talking about how to search for courses. And then it'll show you, here is the INTD 105. That's the writing class that everyone has to take. And as soon as we get your final transcript, the majority of incoming students, I believe, have had 4 years of language. That is typically the case. So once your final transcript arrives at Geneseo after you've graduated, all your grades are in, you send in your final transcript and it gets processed. So give it a little time. Hopefully all of this will take place by July 10th, which is the date that you go and register. But if you took 4 years of a language, you will see this filled in with green. Okay. Down below, it lists all of the possibilities that you could take to fulfill this requirement. Okay. Same thing with scientific literacy. Okay. Everyone has to take one science with a lab. Now, sometimes when students look at DegreeWorks, what confuses them is they look at this huge list of courses and say, oh my gosh, I have to take all of that. I have to take astronomy and biology and chemistry and geography and geological sciences and physics. I have to take all of these things. What it's doing is it's actually listing every possible course that you could take, and you only have to pick one, okay? A minimum of one course. And so if you want to learn more about these, then actually here in blue, you can click on the course. And if it's currently in session, like say you click on human biology. Actually, I took human biology when I was a student. Of course, the class would have changed in almost 30 years, but it was one of my favorite classes, because why wouldn't you want to learn about the human body? I mean, how much more relevant can you get than the human body? So again, it says right here, designed for non-majors, and it gives a little description. And it also tells you when it's open, or when it's available. So how many seats? There's 22 seats left out of 72, and it's offered Monday, Wednesday from 2 to 3:15. And then another thing that's kind of interesting is it right below here, it talks about transfer equivalences. Now, there are thousands of colleges across the entire United States, even the world, where people might transfer things in from. The way that colleges get listed here is it just means some student who is in our system got credit from the College of Westchester. Okay. So that's how, if you scroll down this list, just somebody in our system went to Michigan State and transferred in the college. So that's, or transferred in the credit. So that's how colleges make this list. So, you might look at this and say, well, gosh, maybe I want to take a biology class, maybe over the summer at my local community college. And what if my local community college is not on this list? That would be because nobody has used it yet, right? Like Broome Community College, somebody in our system went there and transferred this credit. So we have a way of getting pre-approval from any institution that you look into taking a course. You will find out if the course is equivalent, and you have to get an approval process ahead of time. And then if you want to take a course elsewhere, you can. Now, let me show you something else then. If I click on, let's say I'm looking for GSci 130. So what does this look like? GSci 130, this class is actually not being offered right now. Okay, it's not being offered in the fall semester. Gives you a little bit of an explanation here. And you'll also notice there's only a handful of colleges listed here, right? Which means that we only have students in our system that have transferred an equivalent class in from just this handful of colleges, okay? So again, this really isn't something you need to look at, but if you're clicking on things and you're wondering, why is this here? That's why. So let me see what else I want to show you. I'm looking at my notes here. They also say you're not supposed to make these meetings more than 10 minutes or students lose focus. So I'm probably getting close to that 10-minute point. But anyway, you have to take one science class. So don't let this entire list of science classes confuse you. As soon as you take a science class, all of the rest of the science classes will be gone off your DegreeWorks, and it will just be, this will be filled in with a green circle, and you won't even see all of the options then any longer. So after the science requirement, like I said, here's the math requirement. I don't understand now why they call that scientific literacy. That's how it's labeled there. And I'm not really sure why, because it's the math requirement. But anyways, there are a lot of these classes that you see here, like psychology, they have behavioral stats, as you can see, or sociology, stats for social research, philosophy, intro to logic. So many of these statistics and geography. So again, many of these courses are part of a required, like a major. So if you're a psych major, don't worry about this requirement, because you will have to take Psych 250 behavioral stats, and then you'll automatically meet this requirement. Currently, we are offering Math 104, Mathematical Ideas, and that's our current 100 level offering for, again, English, history, music, right? Any other major that does not already have a mathematical type of course built into the program. You are required to take 30 credits for general education, because what's going to happen is you're going to overlap a lot. As you start looking at these, and in the next video, as I start talking to you about how to recognize what's what, you're going to overlap a lot. And you might actually meet all of the required, like all of these might be checked off, and yet you haven't taken 30 credits yet, which means then you just pick one other class that has any gen ed tag and just get yourself up to 30 hours of courses with any of these tags, including, it could include an extra science class, right? Maybe you like science, so you decide I'm below 30 hours on gen eds, I'll just take another science class, okay? But again, what I love about this is you have so much choice, much more choice than you had under the old gen ed curriculum. So let me show you one more thing down here. If you have declared a major, it is listed here. So I am looking at a student who is declared a math major. Now, this student is taking AP Calculus, and if that student gets the proper score, this will fill in with green, okay, and say that it's complete. And I have currently registered, I've registered everyone under the assumption that they will get their AP score that would give them credit. So I have registered this student for Calculus 2 and the programming class. So that's why they're filled in there with half moons, and you can see they're labeled IP, right, in progress for the fall semester. This student is also in adolescent education. They have the language requirement listed here again. I don't know why it needs to be listed again, because it's a requirement for graduation. But if you are in education, you don't do a thing with education your freshman year. None of the education courses start until sophomore year, okay? So here's a list here of things that they would need for education. Again, if you're curious, like, what is this class INTD 203? Again, if you're curious about it, you can click on it. It describes the course, and then it tells you we have lots of sections of this year. But again, this is not a freshman class. You will not take anything from the education section as a freshman. So I hope this helped you get a little bit of a better understanding of DegreeWorks and also of the general education curriculum. So I will talk more about this at the 1-hour advisement meetings that we're going to have either June 27th, 28th, or July 7th. And I'm going to make another video that's going to talk about how you search for classes that you would take and how you can search by attribute. So that will be coming up in the next video. So again, I know this is lots of information to throw at you at once. I'm certain many of you feel overwhelmed. Don't worry, we'll get you up to speed. And it might seem complicated right now, but once you get a little more comfortable, it'll kind of all come together and make sense. And you'll have me as your summer advisor to help you, and then you will be assigned an advisor in your major, right? So some of you right now are math and education. You might end up having me as your general advisor. So once you get to campus and you have declared a major, then you get an advisor in your major. Okay. And they help you navigate this, and they help you figure out, what are your required courses, and, what's the best path to take through your major. But again, when it comes to electives, when it comes up to gen eds, you get to pick. Okay. That's the awesome thing about college. You hate history, never take another history class again. Right. So that's the beautiful thing about being a college student and having that choice. So thanks for watching, and I will look forward to meeting you soon in advisement.